Welcome to the Grandpa Channel, where stories don't fade, they get recorded. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This podcast is where grandpas and grandchildren pull up a chair, turn on a mic, and let her rip. Grandpa stories are chock full of wisdom, life lessons, and frankly, funny as hell. Your stories are the magic elixir to help your grandkids navigate Mr. Toad's wild ride, aka life. Let's Grandpa. Listen up, grandpas. Have you actually pulled the trigger on recording your life story? I'm talking video, baby. They want to remember your corny jokes, your crooked smile, your rugged good looks, and the jaunty bounce of your voice. What if I told you there was a really easy way to do this? Recently, I sat down and I told my life story on video. Not the whole thing, but the good stuff, the messy stuff, the funny stuff, the parts I didn't want to forget and the parts that I did not want my kids and my grandkids to forget. Planted Media made it so easy. They came to me, set up everything, and then they did some editing voodoo magic that made me look like $1 million. Go to plantedmediaco.com and tell them Rivers sent you, and you'll get a nice little Grandpa Channel discount. All right, back to the show. Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Steve Harris, and I'm known as Rivers, and I love being called Rivers. My first name, Steve, is really, really boring. So Rivers kind of juices things up. I have an absolutely delightful guest tonight. Her name is Jen Blosil, and I feel so honored that you would come here.
Thanks.
And she's famous. So
yeah,
and
so famous. You know exactly who I am.
Yeah,
like we're obsessed with Jen. We know who she is.
But I thought that Jen would be an absolute wonder to have on to talk about a couple of things as it relates to grandpas, because you are a granddaughter and you are very articulate and fun and beautiful and the whole 9 yards. Welcome to the Grandpa Channel.
Thank you.
I didn't want it to sound like a eulogy.
Yeah. And she was the best among us. Have you guys seen those memes about like the person at the funeral being like, she was always the nicest, and then the siblings being like,
what?
Yeah, we're talking about the same person, like she never did a wrong thing, and the siblings are like, anyway.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I came from heaven and now I'm on earth. What a rush. Yeah, I was born in Vienna. My parents moved to the States when I was a baby. My parents are both American. They want to know about me.
Well, what are some of your talents? What are some of the things that really juice you up?
Yeah. Okay. Pole vaulting.
Pole vaulting.
No, I am one of the least athletic people you may ever meet. I have absolutely no idea about the rules of football. Couldn't tell you, except touchdown. Things that light me up. God lights me up.
Yeah.
Truth lights me up. Learning lights me up. Experiencing life, like going to travel. If I am home for too long, I want to go out and travel again, partly because I am obsessed with God's children. I love people. People light me up. Food lights me up. Music really lights me up. Performing lights me up. Creating lights me up. Vintage clothes light me up. I'm trying to learn French, and I wish it lit me up a little bit more, but it's so hard that it's like a dimly lit match. So
now, if I asked you the question, we already know what the answer to this because I've asked you that. What do you think your superpower is?
Yeah. I mean, how can I list just one?
Of course.
Sheesh. The answer that I said, I got to have dinner earlier here, was my belief in God, because that means I get God's help and all these other things. I mean, thank you. And so I think, I don't know why, this was a question that's honestly kind of plagued me, was like, why do I care so deeply about godly things or godliness or God? Like it's insatiable for me. And I know people say like, there's hyperfixations. I'm like, yeah, this has been my hyperfixation for my whole life.
How long has it been since you were a young girl that you've believed and been lit up by God?
Since I was 0.
Really?
I just was a weird kid that came out of the womb, like really loving church, really loving God, really loving scripture. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't like the best at reading my scriptures because I learned how to be a better, more diligent and focused student. And so I, just grew up really always thinking about the meaning of life and the nature of God and what is the purpose of existence. And I'm like 10 sitting in my room, just like I remember in high school, I just like sit in my room with music in my ears and just like be thinking about the meaning of life. And people would ask me what my hobbies were. And I'm like, thinking, that's such a weird hobby. And then I learned that you could study philosophy. So I went to university and was like, thinking is a major. I can just like study thinking and ethics and what the meaning of life is and like wrestle with these delicious questions that I also feel like only the restored gospel, thank you, Jesus, can answer and give peace and like anchoring to. But anyway, I dropped out of college to do music. So
So tell us, is music one of the great loves of your life? Is it? Yeah.
Yes, that temptress. I'm sorry. I'm funny. I only say that because we talked about this too, that like I haven't had the career success that I would love to see. And yet I still pursue it anyway. And so someone asked me the other day, like, why did you get into music? And the cheesy answer is like, it called me and I accepted the call. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I had this moment years ago when I was like crying in a shower in New York City. I was staying at a friend's and I was overstaying my welcome because I was flying standby and the flights kept being filled and she wasn't having it anymore and I was only there for like 3 days. So true friend, No, unlike your daughter, who's a gracious host and so kind and like so fun to stay with. Anyway, I was crying in the shower and I was like, maybe I just give up this music dream. I like sold all these clothes in order to fly to New York to work with this producer. And I just had like no money to my name and was really just trying to uncover any stone, do anything I could. And I'm crying in the shower, like, do I give it up? And then I realized, like, even if I went to school, back to school, if I had some other kind of more practical career, I would still sing and write songs and love music and do all these things anyway. Why try and deny the rushing river that's already coming and like, let me just trust and go. So,
yeah. One thing that I have been told, and we talked a little bit about this, was that you have the power of connectivity. Have you always had that?
Yeah, I also feel like I was a bizarrely loving child too. Like, I just remember being young and always wanting to invite people over for dinner. I was a little kid and there was this couple, Jennifer and Brigham Cheney, and I just wanted them over for dinner all the time. I just loved them. I'd pick out couples, set invite over for dinner because I wanted to have more friends. And so I think that's been in me since I was young, but I'm grateful. Like I think of a mission companion I had named Crystal, who just really showed me the power of like physical touch and helping people feel loved. And she really had a gift of helping people feel so loved. And another lady in my ward, Francine Miller, who is the same. Like, so yes, I feel like that seed was there, but I'm grateful to have teachers that have really shown me how to do it.
If you were to design, this is kind of a Frankensteinian question. If you were to design the perfect grandfather, what would that grandfather be? What parts would you throw in there?
I mean, the thing I just keep thinking about is what is the quote? The way you spell love is Time. And so I think what we're all craving is people to just care. And even if you show up and it feels awkward and maybe the grandpa doesn't know how to connect with this Gen Z, grandchild, the fact that the grandpa is wanting to be there is everything. And so you asked me about my grandparents.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We got so excited about my superpowers. I have 3 grandpas. So my mom's parents were divorced. So my mom's dad, his name is Jim, rest in paradise. And Jim was an Episcopalian priest and also a geologist that when he died, we found out he worked for the CIA, but nobody knew this. He also basically thought he was going to die since he was about 40 and moved just as snail's pace. He's really tall, really slender, and just so cute, wore the cutest glasses, had a really comforting voice. but I didn't know him because he lived in North Carolina, and I'd fly out there a few times to see him, but I only met that grandpa a few times in my life, and he wasn't exactly warm and affectionate, and it was more like, okay, I remember I was telling Abby this, like I was 12 and I was going to go visit him, and I really wanted to make sure that I knew where in scripture I could explain to my grandpa, like things that we believed, like the Trinity, etc., like points of doctrine that we differ in. And so I like met with my bishops who could like share all of these things with me. Like I knew what we believed, but I didn't know where to find the proof. And now I'm like just Joseph Smith's first vision. And then if you don't want to believe it, okay, but that's that. What more proof is that than someone's witness that God is separate from the Son, and that changes everything. But anyway, what I remember also really wanting to tell him about the young women's theme because it was profound to me. And then I was trying to recite it, and I was like so stage frightened that I couldn't even remember how it went. So my precious grandpa, that's kind of the relationship. It wasn't like really grandfatherly, as like warm and just embracing me in a hug. It was like this priest that I wanted to impress. But God bless them. Like they're just all doing, we all, I hope, are doing the best that we can. Then I had my next grandfather who was a pharmacist, who's my mom's stepdad. God bless him, named Ed. Heavy smoker. So we'd go to my grandma's house and it's just the nicotine's just dripping from the walls and just seeped into the walls. So now cigarette smoke to me is so nostalgic. So people are like, oh, people who smoke cigarettes, it's just disgusting. Like, but I'm like, okay, I don't really mind it. Like, it just reminds me of my childhood, like going to my grandma's house and she sends us Christmas gifts and they just reek of smoke. But it's like, oh, there's Grandpa Ed. But he wasn't necessarily also the nicest person. I mean, God bless him. He was a heavy drinker too. And so he would just come home from work when my mom was a kid and go down into the basement and smoke and watch TV. And yeah, like my mom always walked around eggshells with him because she wasn't sure how he would respond to her and if he'd be violent. He wasn't like physically abusive to her, but just like a temper. And then my grandpa, my dad's dad, is a legend. His name is Warren. Was like a real estate guy. And my dad grew up in the Bay Area, and then that grandpa moved to Provo. But then early on, my grandma told my mom, like, just so you know, we're not the grandparents that like come to everything. So I didn't grow up. Yeah. It's like almost making me cry. Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, by the way, now I'm like, oh, I'm just like so weepy today. But like, I didn't really have grandparently, like they never came to any concerts or anything like that. No, like, so they lived by me, but once again, my grandpa, my dad's dad, was like kind of distant. I had this really cool experience where I like had this vision, and my grandparents came to me and were talking to me, and they just apologized for the way they showed up. Yeah, it'll make me cry. So my grandpa, my dad's dad, was an only child. And so, you know, then they had my dad's family, there's 6 boys and 1 girl, and they're rambunctious. These like really loud boys. And then my cute grandma, his wife, was also effectively an only child. Her brother died in the war when my grandma was 14, 2 weeks before the war ended. He went missing. Okay, this is a bit of family lore. So my grandma's brother was on a submarine that got bombed by the Japanese. And then, as you know, in America, we weren't treating people of Japanese descent very nicely during that time. Super suspicious. My grandma's dad ran an insurance company and was insuring all these Japanese people that people were turning away, which I like to think that it wasn't just because he was like a money opportunity, but something that's so beautiful to me is here's a man that could be, I mean, we hope to never be racist, but his only son was now lost at sea because of the Japanese army. Pacific. Yeah, somewhere. And then he is in return being like, listen, all these like Japanese people, they're not at fault. This isn't their fault that this happens. Like war is stupid and horrible and death is awful, but they didn't send the bomb, or the torpedo or whatever to my son. So that's cool to me that I'm also like, that my great grandpa was one that was a forgiving man.
What a great example.
Yeah, so I'm like, I love that. But to me, it's a family story of like, we don't judge and we love and we embrace. And my dad, I think, really brought that culture into our family as well. That like, We were well-traveled. Like, my grandpa and grandma really provided that for their kids of like, you go out and you experience the world. And a cool story I have with my grandpa too, we both served in the temple. So I came home from my mission and we both got to be temple workers on the same shift. But also, again, my cute I'm like, Warren, I'd like invite him to come hang with me and my friends, and he'd be like, no, I'm already sitting over here. I'm like, Grandpa, come on. I'm so cool, Grandpa. Come hang out with me. Like,
Is he a little shy?
He just like wasn't very warm. So he wasn't really shy. He just like wasn't, none of my grandpas were. I wouldn't describe them as warm. They were good men. My grandpa Warren's a great man. And I hear all these stories of generosity, and I'm like, why didn't you give me that car, Grandpa? I didn't have a car for forever. And then somebody in his ward like needed a car, and he like sold it for $1, and they're like telling the story at the funeral, and I'm like, I don't even have a car. I'm like, I'm like, oh, I remember like going to my grandpa because I like needed money for school or something, and he's like, no, you need to earn it yourself. And I'm like, okay, so Grandpa being generous with like the animals, and then I'm over here being like, Grandpa, please. But like, God bless him, like the value of hard work. I'm like, hey, Grandpa, I'm gonna learn it the hard way. But we were in the temple. Once again, he wasn't sitting with me and my friends, Grandpa. And my cute friend had these little chocolates. Like, do you know what the Brookstone chocolates are? That are like, that's like acai in the middle and like enrobed in chocolate. Essentially, they're gonna melt. And my friend was like, do you want some of these, Brother Blosil? He's like, yeah, I'll take one home for my wife and for my Aunt Kathy, his daughter that was living at home. So he takes 2 little chocolates and like puts them in his pocket. And I was like, that is the tenderest, precious thing to most precious. And so I love that he loved his wife. He loved his wife. And that little like tiny little chocolates he wanted to bring home to his daughter and to his wife. So my grandpa wasn't necessarily warm, but he had a good heart. My 2 grandpas left such a rich legacy of faith and were really godly men and really devoted to faith. And that's really beautiful to me. I feel really grateful that the blessings of my life that I enjoy are because of their faith. That my grandpa was really religious, which also helped my mom in her quest for religion and eventually choosing to be a member of the Restored Church of Jesus Christ. And because of my grandpa's faith and that heritage, it allowed my mom to walk through this door. And because of my grandpa's just like stalwart testimony and his like anchoring of faith allowed my dad and his family and this like rich tradition of faith. And so I am the recipient of sacrifices made by my grandparents to have a beautiful, rich faith life.
And I think we have ancestors that we know nothing about.
Yes.
Whose lives, if we knew, but I think we're recipients through our DNA.
Totally.
And so we're blessed by what they did. I think of maybe having a 9th great grandfather as a serf on a farm in Denmark, and somehow he managed to get through life. And so I just think that there's all these wonderful stories, and who knows, maybe he's done a lot of work with me and my family.
Your ancestor?
Yeah, my ancestor.
Yeah.
So I really love that. So your gift, you can connect with people. You're a gatherer and you're inclusive. This is what my daughter tells me. And so what's your source? Tell us what your source is. And then I'm going to ask you, what kind of advice would you give to grandpas how to connect better with their grandkids? So what is the source of your connectivity, you think?
I mean, first of all, I feel like, once again, God. But the second thing is I sadly and happily have just been the brunt of a lot of not nice things. Like when I was on American Idol, I was like really trashed online. People said really mean things. So I also feel as a result, I'm particularly tender to people not being the recipient of that from me. Or like I walk into a room and I want to make sure that the person is seen and valued, and that I want to, that they're precious, because I've walked in far too many rooms where I haven't felt that way and people haven't made me feel that way, and it sucks. And all it takes is 3 seconds to look at someone. I met Elder Bednar at the airport once, and it was a trip where I had also met Miley Cyrus on the same trip and just felt so small in her presence and didn't matter, and I was saying these nice things, and it just, I was just an annoyance in her life.
Yeah, get away.
Yeah, kind of like, whatever, I don't care. And like, God bless her. I mean, it's not that she's mean, it's just whatever. And then I met Elder Bednar on the same trip, and he looked me in the eyes and held my hand and said, "Tell me your name." And that was like, oh, my name's Jen, but it takes 2 seconds. And Miley, who cares? This other person I met can also take 2 seconds, and it makes a world of a difference for a person. So I feel like the reason why, thank you for thinking that, I don't want to be like, I am good. I just think I have a particular keenness and sense of attention to making sure that people feel valued, because I so often have not felt that way. And so, anyway, I feel like it stems from the hard thing, which
isn't that's ironic.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like the less fun answer to be like, well, my life was really hard.
What are the practical things that you do, Jen, when you see people?
I think a good thing is ask engaging questions. You're great at that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're amazing at that. I feel so important around you, Steve. I'm like, I am important. I do have a superpower.
You stand up straight.
Yeah, like you make me feel like the funniest person. I'm like, haha, I'm hilarious. But it's because you help me feel that way, because of the questions that you ask. And maybe it's I'm chatting because you're a great listener. So I think, like, especially for grandparents that are wanting to connect, I know for me, even trying to connect with the younger generation, and I'm like at a loss.
I love it that you refer to the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm young too, but like I have like cute cousins that I'm like, okay, and they're not being as responsive.
Yeah.
I think maybe like, okay, so first to answer, what are practical ways to connect? Asking better questions. I love asking people like, what are you loving about life right now? What are some of your dreams? Like, I used to work as a waitress at a restaurant, and no one ever asked me what I wanted to do in life except like one person. And it meant everything to me. Because I'm like, oh, you're seeing me as a person that clearly doesn't want to work at a waitressing job. Like, this isn't my dream. So now I love when I have wait staff or something, I'm like, okay, so what's your dream? Yeah. Like, tell me about this. Like, what is that? Like,
do you ever get people that they kind of look at you like, what the heck? Or most people are pretty open to that?
I'm proud to be an American, because in America, it's like, we love to chat.
Yeah.
In France, I was like, so what's your dream? And they're like, what? What do you mean? Ton rêve, c'est quoi ton rêve? Which is like, what's your dreaming? Like, you're dreaming about it. Like, what's that? They're like, I don't understand. I'm like, this isn't going well. Or like, one time I was trying to use the bathroom and you have to pay. And I asked the lady, like, so how's your day? And she goes, why do you want to know? I'm like, and then I go to America, Trader Joe's, and like, so how's your day going? I'm like, girl, let me tell you, I love America. Like, I love that aspect of American culture, that I can be with a waitress and be like, so girl, like, tell me about this. And I feel like my response in America is people are like, I'm dying to be connected to, let me tell you. And then in Europe, it's also a language barrier. So also cultural cultural barrier. I find that people's favorite topic is themselves. We're
that is, I think, a universally held.
Totally.
I think that when you ask people about themselves, if you're sincere,
totally,
and you can't break the space bubble either.
Totally.
It has to be within a respectful distance. But I just think that if you're asking people to tell me about your life, and if you're sincere and if you're genuinely curious, and it's not that you're curious that you're trying to get something from them.
Yeah. Oh, I just had this really profound moment when I was a missionary. So I served in New York City, mostly in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn at this time, it was 2013, was like, it was almost maybe the tail end of like hipsters, like these really cool, like typically musicians. And I went on my mission, a musician, maybe someone who loved vintage shopping too, like whatever, hipstery. And then suddenly I was like the ultimate loser, wearing clothes I'd never wear, just like a name tag and a Book of Mormon in my hand, just like nothing about me. It just looked like my rings were off, but I loved at the end of my mission, I just didn't care anymore. The labels of anything I'm trying to identify with were just dissolved in this love of a person. And I remember going into this like cool joint called Momofuku Milk Bar. And I was advertising we're going to do this Christmas in July to like sing Christmas songs in July for fun. And we put all these posters around town. Like, that's when I was like, let me shine. These are my gifts. We're going to do a concert. I know how to like advertise for things. Nobody came from the streets, but hey, but I was talking to this man, and if I remember right, his name is Elliot, and he's wearing this cool outfit. And we just had a really beautiful connection where I started talking to him, and I could see his defenses just drop. We talked about God, and I was able to testify of my love for the Book of Mormon, that it really changed my life. And what was so cool to me was like, we weren't connecting from like worldly metric to worldly metric. It was like spirit to spirit. Like, cool, Elliot, you have a cool outfit, whatever, but like, who are you? And then when you're starting to connect like that, it's like all the defenses are gone, and you're just like, oh, here I am. Here I am. And sometimes it can be like a segue in is to like compliment something. But I think, Steve, you hit it perfectly of like, have it be a sincere compliment and find some way to like sincerely connect. And then 2 other thoughts. Sorry, I have so many thoughts on this. But like, for example, if you're walking into a party and you're feeling nervous or a social event, I love to just say a prayer and be like, hey, who do I need to see? Who needs me? How can I serve? How can I go into this setting and just like bless the people there by bringing them the power of Jesus? And not worry that I maybe feel like I'm not cool enough or like I don't belong in this room. Like, the answer is to like lean into God and get outside of yourself.
It's so applicable to grandpas when you think about it.
I love.
What if you had a grandpa who was maybe having some hard times connecting with your grandchild? If he said a little silent prayer that, okay, what can I ask? What can I say? What would you like me to do? I don't think that's a prayer. I think that that's a prayer that will get answered immediately. So I love some of your questions. What other questions do you use? And I think they're applicable to grandpas asking questions, you know, to grandkids. Obviously, based on what age group, you're not going to ask, tell me what your philosophy of life is to a 4-year-old. Yeah. What other questions do you kind of break the ice or try to connect with people?
Yeah. Well, this isn't one that I've asked, but when you're talking, I'm like, I'm thinking of somebody that I have a difficult time connecting with. And I just thought like, wow, a good question would be, or even like the sincere thing is like, I would actually really love to talk to you, but I don't know what to talk about. What would you like to talk about? Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
If I'm like, hey, I think you're really great, and I actually would love to connect with you more. What do you want to talk about?
Help me.
Yeah, help me.
Yeah.
Help me connect with you. Like, I'm thinking of this cousin that I'm like, Doug, I got to use that. And that feels so vulnerable.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, I think you're really great.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't really know what to talk about, but I would love to hear anything you want to tell me because I'm here for you and I really care.
What questions would you have liked to have been asked by grandfathers when you were a little girl?
Anything.
Really?
Yes, anything. Ask me anything.
Really? Just to ask the question?
Yeah. I don't know if my grandfather's ever really asked me a thing. I was around.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
They let me watch cartoons, but my grandpa, I don't think ever was like, how's school?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if and like, God bless him, he didn't even know how my concerts were going or anything because he didn't come. But yeah, I think also I would say maybe lead with questions of things you love or be aware of questions people ask. Like, I learned that, what are you loving about life? I used to ask.
I love that question.
Yeah. I got it from someone else.
They
asked me that. Oh. I used to ask, like, what are you loving? Like, or what are you looking forward to? Which I like, but now I love when someone asks me, what are you loving about life? And I thought, ooh, that makes me like be in this present moment, have gratitude for what is, and then talk about that. I feel like maybe with what you're curious about, like, what has God been teaching you lately? Yeah. I love asking, what's something hard in your life? And then what's something beautiful in your life? And also, like, be aware of how they're responding. Like, if I ask someone, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a 5 out of 10. Tell me more. You know? Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And if someone is like, oh, I'm doing great, I'm like, tell me why you're doing great.
Yeah.
I think, Steve, the real art is in the follow-up. It isn't just the initial question. It's someone gives me an answer, then I'm going to follow up to be like, tell me more about that thing. Yeah. And now you have a conversation where they're feeling connected.
And you feel like, and if you do it right, and it's hard not to do it right if you're a grandpa and if you have love in your heart.
Totally.
And if you're not trying to wag your finger at your little grandson or granddaughter.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that when I was young, if anybody asked about what I was up to,
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Like, thank you for
asking.
caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think that, that grandpas could do a better job of
Aw.
asking questions and kind of doing the deep dive as much as you can, say with a 4-year-old or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and with the 4-year-old, they just seem to be silly.
Yeah. What advice would you give to grandpas in dealing with, let's be more specific, with
Yeah.
granddaughters?
Oh, that's so beautiful. Two thoughts come to mind. The first thing I feel like is if a grandparent's ever wagging their finger, it's probably, I've just learned this, that if I'm receiving harsh judgment from somebody, it's probably because they're judging themselves, Especially if I feel like the judgment is unwarranted or I'm like, this is not. So my first thought is like, I think we need to be more gentle on ourselves. Maybe if you're wagging your finger at a grandchild, it's because you feel like God is going to be wagging his finger at you. And I think when we recognize more fully the compassion of God, we're able to be so much more compassionate to others, we feel that. It's a natural extension. So I would say that, like, if you're someone that's feeling very like this, like, ask yourself why you feel so harsh.
Are you acting in anger? Are you
Yeah.
speaking in anger?
Yeah, because love oftentimes, very few times have I felt the need to bear witness in a kind of like a harsh way. And then I found that, it was not the move. Like, to afford people to use their agency and just to respect. Like, I just remember having this friend that was just making all sorts of crazy decisions, drinking, premarital sex. And I felt so lucky my friend talked to me about it. And she was young. She was like a teenage girl. And I just was like, you're going to figure it out. These are going to be great stories for when you're a mom. I'm like, yeah, you're fine. And I think because I wasn't so stressed that she needed to be doing the right thing and just trusted, like, God's got her. God's got me. We're here to gain experience. This allows me to be so much more compassionate with my cute friend. And it isn't like I'm stepping away from the ground of footing. You know what I mean? Like, my friend knows exactly that. I'm like, I love the law of chastity. I think alcohol's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, my friend knows that, but I didn't need to tell her. It was like, wow, thank you for trusting. You're going to be fine. She's married in the temple, has 2 cute babies, the best husband, And I learned that actually from my sister when I was driving. I was learning how to drive, and I would drive with my mom, and she'd be just terrified. And then my sister would get in the car, and she'd purposely not wear a seatbelt because she's like, I trust you. We're going to be fine. I'm like, hey, that's wild that my sister did that. But guess what? It made me really want to be like, yeah, we are going to be fine. My sister trusts me, respects me. I'm going to be even more careful. Now I'm at ease to be careful. Where when I was with my mom and she was so frightened and screaming and making sure, it was like, it's the worst environment. I hated driving with my mom. It wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't making me a better driver. So I'd say this, if you're a grandfather with cute granddaughters and maybe your granddaughter's not making the choices maybe you would love to have her make, extend the compassion of God and like you were saying, just ask how her life's going. Maybe she's like having a rough time because she needs someone to just sit with her and love her. And so I'd say, like, yeah, you have a granddaughter, ask her about dating because it actually is fun. And not like, so why aren't you dating? But like, so tell me about the young men in your life. You know what I mean? Ask.
It's in the phrasing.
Yeah. Like, be cute. Like, so tell me what young men do I have to go egg their houses? You know what I mean? Like,
or do I need to interview?
Yeah. Who do I need to interview? Or like, do I need to drive you to his house so we can toilet paper it? I don't know. Like, for a young man that's not treating you well, I need to go tell him? Anyway, yeah, but once again, I think it's just time. And like you said, say a prayer of how to connect.
Okay, so I've got a kind of a crazy question for you. If I could teleport your grandfather or one of your grandfathers and have him sit right here.
Yeah.
And if he said, Jen, I think I let you down, what would you say to him?
I think between my tears and I'm like, Grandpa, I feel like the compassionate view once again is like, man, my grandpas were doing the best. Like, that's why I kept saying, like, my grandpa that was close to me, he was an only son from like an immigrant father. I would first be like, Grandpa, it's okay. Like, don't even worry. And then I think the wisdom this isn't a helpful answer because I'm like, oh, well, now I would take it upon myself to connect with my grandpa and ask him questions.
Would you have asked him more questions?
Yeah, I think my grandparents just died when I was too young.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, my grandpa Warren died when I was in my 20s. But it was kind of like I was just, college age, stuck in my own life. So if my grandpa were to come now, I'd have more compassion and kindness to do that. But yeah, I think just exactly what we were saying. I would have loved if my grandpa's asked me more things about my life and asked me how music is going or dating or anything, or tell me about your travels, show me some pictures. They just took an interest in my life.
Yeah. Would you be wrapped around their finger?
Yes, that's what I'm like. That's the thing. I know I keep saying it, but it's like love is just time. Like my grandpa is wealthy. I'm not like, yeah, I wish my grandpa bought me a car.
Yeah.
It's like, I just wish my grandpa asked me something.
Oh, that's very interesting. If you were to give advice to a grandfather who maybe hasn't been as valiant a grandfather as he needed to have been, maybe he had good intentions, but either lived away or didn't want to spend the time, or it could be physical issues, could be mental health issues, it could be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But what if you have a grandpa who says, I haven't done a great job. Give me some ideas on how I can maybe make up for some lost time and re-enter my grandchild's life. And maybe you could even, if you wanted to, talk about it from a granddaughter's standpoint, because I find that girls are so much different. And there's a funny joke that one guy said, I have 3 daughters, which means that at any one given time, at least one of them is upset at me. I think there's some truth to that. What kind of advice would you give? If they want to get back in the game, I guess is a good way of maybe saying it.
If you're around and you can, try and get some good granddaughter time. And take her to lunch. Or even be like, I'm going to take you shopping. I feel like that's more of a grandmother thing. But you could. Or even be like, I'm going to give you $50 so you can go buy a nice dress. Like, money doesn't buy happiness. But I just was joking about like a birthday card and then the money's just falling out. And so just make sure you give your granddaughter a fat stack of cash. No, but my grandma used to pay for my haircuts. And she lived in North Carolina, so that's something that she did. She lived so far away, my Nana, and because she lived so far away, one way she'd be connected is I'd go get my hair cut and colored, and that was my little Nana's gift to me. And so I'd say, too, like, if your grandchild lives far away, you could ask their parents, like, is there something they need for school? Do they have a school trip going up that maybe you can't afford, but I could help them go on the school trip? Look for ways to be invested in their life. And yeah, it's just where you can. Like if you live far away, maybe call them more often, send them a text, send them an email. Just find ways to show them that you care, that feel thoughtful.
Those are beautiful ideas. You've said a lot of beautiful things.
Oh, thanks.
And a lot of things that get me thinking about how I can improve as a grandpa. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Grandpa's podcast. Wait, what is it called? Grandpa Chat?
The Grandpa Channel.
The Grandpa Channel.
This has been a great episode. Thanks to Jen. I just want to be the very best that I can. So thank you. And keep listening.
And if you want a granddaughter to take to lunch, my number, I'm kidding.
That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or better yet, tell your favorite grandpa. We're on a mission to gather 1 million grandpas, storytellers, wisdom keepers, and lovable wild cards. Until next time, keep the mic hot, the memories fresh, and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.